Hello, welcome back to Blender LIVENODING. In this episode, we're gonna do a quick experimental project, basically to use Blender Compositing and Sverchok add-on to create this kind of procedural stamping. So you can see here, there are multiple Susan head being rendered. They are actually a flat image, and they are kind of overlaid on top of each other for every frame. Creating this kind of very interesting stamping effect. So let's see how we can create that. I will be using Sverchok to do the actual artwork, so we're gonna do that first. So file, save as. This is procedural stamping. And I'm gonna go to the top view, and we're gonna create just an icosphere, and we're gonna output it as a viewer vmesh, and you can see it's just an icosphere like that, and we can randomize it. So it's pretty simple. Just make it so it looks like a crumpled kind of paper. So it's pretty abstract, it doesn't matter. And for the matrix, we really also gonna make it random. So random vector, and plug into the locations. So now for every frame update, if I just plug in the frame into the seed, for every frame being generated, it's gonna be at different position. So that's the idea. And even better, we can also randomize the seed. So now it's like crumpled paper at different place. And even cooler is that we can change the color. So change the color also. Create a material, enable object color, assign it in Sverchok, and also set the color here. And then use a color in. We also can give a random color for the hue, saturation, and value. Let's just make it something like that, and then random number, float, size 1, value between 0 and 1, the seed coming from frame. This goes into the hue. So every frame we're gonna have this random crumpled paper random position. The random position also can be randomized further by using randomizer, like that. So yeah, I think we have our random artworks. And save this, and I will now use I'm gonna set up like a quick render, and we'll use a compositing to do some kind of magic. First of all, I need a camera, and then I'm gonna set up the camera, align the camera to the view. So now this is my view. So the view is kind of small, but we're gonna make it 256 by 256, so it's rather small. And also I will lock the camera just around there, around the center. So that's kind of okay. You might already guess that if I render this out, it's gonna be just like a single crumpled paper at random position, right? It's kind of cool, but we want it to be on top of each other. How do we do that? We can use Blender Compositing Magic. So first we need to render it out, and let's see. We also need to turn on the transparency before I forgot. So instead of alpha sky, alpha needs to be transparent. And we're gonna go to the temp directory. First of all, jump into the temp directory. I already got something here earlier. The effects that I want to create is gonna be end up something like this. So let's see. I'm gonna delete everything. So we have nothing inside temp. We don't have any image. and we want to render this out. So yeah, let's render it out. Render animations. Oh, it's actually dark. We need to just turn on the ambient occlusions just for simplicity and render it out. So we have a bunch of this random, like a crumpled paper. Okay, so it comes with alpha, you can see here. So now let's go to Compositor. Save this and switch to Compositor, use nodes, and we got our scenes with a composite. Okay, now I want to output it. There's this file node here, file output, and I want to output it as, let's call it a name. Give this one blah. So I just not call it blah, right? And so I'm gonna render it again. So I don't need that many frames. Just make it from 1 to 50. It's gonna delete everything again. Move to trash. So this one will output now, will output 2 files. The original master and then this one, blah. It's gonna be called blah something. So we got blah, right? Now I'm gonna disconnect blah. And what's gonna happen is that I'm gonna use import. I'm gonna use image and I'm gonna open our blah. And it's gonna be a sequence of image, and it's gonna be 50 frame, and cycles and auto refresh should be on. For this guy, the frame will start at 2. So what's gonna happen is that I will do like a chain reaction of compositing. I'm gonna use alpha over. So this image is gonna be composite of this image. And let's look at it with a viewer. So this is the viewer node. If we update it, you can see for every frame, this one gonna overlap on top of this guy, and this one will like a pre-render the next frame. So hopefully, if we are doing this correctly, we're gonna have a very interesting result very easily. This one, I call it blee, okay? This one blah, this one's blee. Originally, we just render our scene as the original and then blah. And then I disconnect this. Now I'm plugging this guy into blah and this guy into blee. Blee is gonna be the final render. And so, yeah, I think everything is set correctly. And let's see how it's gonna work out for us. If we render everything again, now you can see this guy is being overlapped. That's actually what I need, and that's the final output that I want. So blee is our final render. Blah is also kind of overlapping, which is kind of interesting. There is like a pre-multiplied issue there. Maybe I need to turn on pre-multiplied or convert pre-multiplied. Test again. Oh, now if we test it again, it's kind of, we need to start again from the original. And then we plug, this guy into the blah, and then re-render. Now we have our crumpled paper effect. There's still like a pre-multiplied issue there. Maybe I need to turn this off or something. So try again. Render. And then Render again. So we get our effects. Well, I think the pre-multiply thing is still kind of appearing. Maybe just test the pre-multiply options and then see the result. So basically the final result, if you look at it using QuickTime, open it as sequence, you can see we have this kind of effects. Very interesting. It's almost like a processing. Oh, it's actually kind of putting the alpha on top at the background. So that's kind of interesting. So it's putting it in the background. Maybe I need to put this in reverse. And why not we render it again? So render the original artwork. And then save it. And then plug this there and then re-render with our magical setup using Blender Compositor. And once it's done, we get the effect. So this one doesn't have pre-multiplying issue. So there you go. This is a quick way to create some kind of procedural stamping effects. This one, you can use it, as a texture. Actually, it can be interesting. You can do a lot with this, even just with this simple trick. This is something you probably, if you are using like a software like another app called Processing. Processing is I think it was JavaScript and Java. I think it was JavaScript, and then this guy can create like a procedural stamping pretty easily because it's always like you can set it up so it's it didn't clear the previous render and then it's just overlay. It's very interesting. But anyhow, Blender is also can do it in a different way. If you want to do a procedural stamping, you can also use a dynamic paint, and I might touch that again in near future. But this is really interesting because now you can use this as a texture for displacement, I think, and the effect is kind of nice. And if you want to experiment, you can also do this kind of alpha over by maybe like blurring. You can blur the previous render, for example, and this is gonna give quite a neat effects in itself. So this is one more idea before I finish this up. Render the original. Now do the alpha overlay and render again, and you're gonna have interesting result. File, open image sequence, go and select this guy. So supposedly the blurring happens. There you go. It's pretty unusual, right? You can give this a try. So hopefully you like these effects, and let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.